I've been doing this a little over a year now, and there's been one vehicle in particular that Mrs. Jax has asked about over and over again, waiting for the day when that vehicle would finally show up in our driveway. Well, today is that day, and this might be the only time in the history of the channel when reviewing a car is probably going to cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of about 70 grand. But you know what? In this case, it just might be worth it. What's going on, everyone? Jax here, and today I have the 2021 Chevrolet Tahoe Z71 edition and Mrs. Jax's dream car. Now, we've owned a 2012 Suburban for the past 8 years, and we've put about 150,000 miles on it. And I can safely say that it has been a reliable and useful family hauler with two main detractions. The first one is the most offensive to the naked eye and anyone with hands.
You've got no arms left.
And that's that the interior plastics are abysmal. They are horrible, just offensively bad. Everywhere you touch, the plastics are just hard and scratchy, and the wood grain trim looks fake as shit. The other complaint would be the ride quality. While our Suburban has always done fairly well on the highway, around town and daily driving, it's a bit of a different story. Side-to-side bumps cause your head to feel as though it is about to be removed from your body. I added a set of Bilstein shocks, and that did help somewhat, but overall the ride quality is pretty terrible. And a lot of that has to do with the solid rear axle, which hurts both the ride quality and interior cargo space and packaging. Until now. The newest versions of the Tahoe and the Suburban come with an independent rear suspension, which allows for better ride quality, much better ride quality, and vastly improved cargo space, so it's pretty much a win-win. This Tahoe is seriously big inside, with 25.5 cubic feet of space behind the third row. It used to have approximately none at all. Folding down that third row gives you 72.6 cubic feet of space behind the second row, putting it far ahead of the standard wheelbase Ford Expedition. And the new rear suspension, combined with GM's phenomenal magnetic shocks and this model's new air suspension, makes for a much improved ride. More on that later. The interior is a massive improvement over the previous models, featuring materials that are price appropriate and an overall design that sort of looks sufficiently trucky without using that as an excuse to suck. Kind of like the old Tahoe and Suburban, or the current Silverado. Now let's talk styling real quick, because I know it's a bit polarizing. I like that GM took some risks here to differentiate the new model from the old models. Our Suburban is now 2 generations old, and my parents have one that is from the last generation. And I never really felt like those 2 generations looked all that different, and it's because they weren't. They were built on roughly the same architecture, using the same design and the same awful solid rear axle. This new model, especially in Z71 trim, looks kind of bold and brash with sort of a classic side profile and a classic rear end view that sort of helps to offset the kind of avant-garde front end styling. I just really wanted to say avant-garde. It probably doesn't even apply here, actually. I wonder what that means. I mean, if you're gonna go bold, go all the way. Go red tow hooks, go more aggressive tires, go a fake front skid plate that hides an actual front skid plate for some reason. It all contributes to sort of a bullish, purposeful look. And to be honest with you, I really like it. Under the hood, there's some good news and there's some bad news. Oh, you want the bad news first? I like your style. The base engine is GM's 5.3-liter V8, making 355 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque. Wait, how could I, of all people, a GM fanboy and small block devotee, stand here and tell you that a small block V8 in a General Motors vehicle is somehow a negative? That doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense.
That's what I said. It's really because this new Tahoe is so great that it deserves something just a little more innovative under the hood. It is worth noting that you can get the excellent Duramax diesel in both the Tahoe and the Suburban, as well as GM's bonkers 6.2-liter V8 that pumps out 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. You just can't get them here. It has something to do with ground clearance in the skid plate or something like that. At least it's not available at the moment. The 420 horsepower V8 is sort of reserved for the higher trim models, and the Duramax I don't think will fit because of the intercooler or something along those lines. I don't know, I'm not an engineer, I'm just some guy who's a dad, who's also a teacher, who reviews cars in parking lots. I'm nothing special, except for being incredibly good looking. Compared to Ford's EcoBoost V6, the 5.3-liter just doesn't feel quite as effortless in its power delivery. The EcoBoost is also objectively notably faster, with Motor Trend recording over a second advantage from 0 to 60. That's significant in a vehicle that weighs about as much as a rock quarry. Not that you'll notice it in day-to-day driving, but still. Come on, Chevy. You can't let a twin-turbo V6 from Ford do you like that? Find a way to make the 6.2-liter fit in this thing, or offer it on this thing, or whatever the problem is. Oh yeah, and what about that good news? Well, the good news is that it is paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission that definitely makes the most out of what the 5.3-liter has to offer. The shifts are buttery smooth, and it's incredibly responsive, and generally it always knows what gear you want to be in, whether you're just trundling around town or whether you're accelerating onto the highway. It is an impressively tuned transmission that definitely maximizes all of the potential of this sort of carryover engine. So see, that's a good thing. It's co-developed with Ford, actually. Same transmission they use. But it's better. So that part's better. Ford. I mean, I didn't say I wasn't biased. But you know what doesn't carry over at all? This interior, which I'm not sitting in. It's a little too contrasty with the sun. I've kind of been standing outside on the interior parts lately. Is that better, or is it cool to see me sit inside? Why would it be cool to see me sit inside? That doesn't make any sense. It has much improved materials, tons of space, and all of the tech and safety features that you'd expect for a car that cost almost $70,000. To be fair, you can option a Tahoe to be in the $50,000 range if you really wanted to. But I mean, why would you want to? Because that would be boring. I mean, it's more reasonable, but it's also more boring. Don't you want to be financially irresponsible like every American? Boring. The Z71 trim really hits a nice sweet spot in the lineup with a good selection of options and standard features. And the Z71 off-road package, which costs $5,735, comes with some very choice options. It adds surround view cameras, heated and power folding mirrors, a heated and electronically tilting and telescoping steering wheel, driver memory settings, and all of GM's most advanced safety features. You also get GM's advanced trailering systems for, you know, the types of people that use these giant SUVs as God and nature intended. What, you still don't think that's worth $5,700? Well, you also get GM's magnetic ride control and air suspension. And I'll tell you right now that those two things by themselves are worth the $5,700. And aside from the much improved materials and the laundry list of features and options, the other thing that really stands out about this interior is interior space. The third row is actually usable for adults now. And I don't mean like petite adults, I mean sort of normal average size adults. I could even get back there, you know, for like short time. And the seats in general, especially the front seats, are extremely comfortable for longer journeys. We spent our first weekend with the car ferrying Ella to and from a volleyball tournament in Atlanta that was about an hour away from where we live. And the Tahoe was a wonderful place to spend those early morning trips, when it's dark outside and you got nothing but wireless Apple CarPlay to keep you awake and a coffee and, yeah, early morning. Kids in sports, good times. This model also comes with the media and navigation package, which includes the aforementioned Apple CarPlay wireless, as well as two 12-inch screens on the back of the front seats that can connect via HDMI. At just under $2,500, you'll have to decide whether that package is worth it for you. Maybe you just buy a pair of iPads to keep your kids occupied instead, but that's up to you. However, I probably would spend the $350 on the power sliding center console option, which only exists because, of course it exists. Mrs. Jax absolutely loved that feature because it opens up a place for her to put her purse as well as a little secret cubby for valuables. In fact, if I'm being honest, Mrs. Jax loved everything about this car, or truck, big SUV. You get what I mean.
Hello, we're driving the 2021 Z71 Chevy Tahoe. I'm sure he's already told you that, but I like to feel like I have an important role in this video. I love this car. Like, that's a bit of an understatement to say I love this car. So I drive a 2012 Chevy Suburban. 2012 Suburban that I really, really love. Like I've always said, I'm gonna drive that car till I die, but I've changed my mind. I decided I'm gonna drive that car until my husband buys me this car. Because everything I love about my Suburban, this has but in a million times better. So I didn't really realize how many awesome things the Chevy now has until I drove this. So one thing I really noticed is, I think it's the suspension, but when I go over speed bumps in my Suburban, we're all like, whoa, in the car, you know? And in this one, I'm like, you float over them, which is lovely, especially when you've been flying over them for, 8 years.
How fast are you going over?
No. I don't mean fly over them. I mean, that's my point. I can literally be in the grocery store parking lot, slowly going over speed bump, and we still are like this. So it's not me. It's the car that I love, but it's the car. Let's see. All of the gadgets and all of the displays are beautiful and obviously way beyond my 2012, but they're all just super user friendly. The little flappy paddles, button gear pushy things are very user friendly. Basically, if I can get in this car and figure out how to use everything, then anybody can. The heated steering wheel, I was driving to work this morning and it was freezing and the heating steering wheel was lovely. The lane assist, is that what it's called?
Yes.
Is perfect. It tells me if I'm, not right in the lane. It gives me little warning signs if I'm getting too close to people in front of me. The seats feel lovely. They're very comfortable. Everything looks awesome, and the outside of this car, and is it different because it's a Z71? But it looks awesome. It's tough, and I would have never thought I would have bought the Z71, but that's what he's gonna buy me if he wants to stay married.
Wow, this is a high price to pay.
Just kidding. This is a freaking awesome car. I just want to keep it forever and love it forever. The Apple CarPlay works awesome. My kids love the back. Our daughter is pushing 6'1", volleyball player. It's very helpful, and she likes the little. No, they're not bucket seats. They're
captain's chairs.
Captain's chairs. She likes the captain's chairs, and she has plenty of room back there. And the cargo space is out of this world, because normally, in the old, when we first got my Suburban, we'd look at a Tahoe, And when you pulled the back up, there's like no cargo space. So I was like, no, I want the Suburban because I can't even fit like, grocery bag back here. But now with the third row up and you open up the back, there's a ton of cargo space. I mean, not like the Suburban, but it's a lot. So I actually had always said that I would never not have a Suburban because I love all the cargo space. And like when we go on trips to Disney World or the beach or whatever, we can throw all the stuff back there. But like I would totally buy this car because I feel like I would have that. Because especially with the third row down, you have a ton of seats because I learned from this guy that I don't know, something about the floor is lowered, so the seats roll down, you have lots more cargo space.
Independent rear suspension.
Independent rear suspension, that's what I said. So it's awesome, and it just drives like a dream. It's very smooth. I feel like I'm like really up high, which I love. And when you park, it lowers down, which is like air suspension, that's what I said. Like I feel like, like yeah, my car's lowering, just, But anyway, I just really love this car. And I'll let you know when he buys one for me. Not if, when. Chevy, I'll just take this exact one if you want me to.
I don't think that was part of the agreement.
Yeah, but it's like it's used now, so they don't need it, right?
I don't think that test cars count as used. Free cars.
But
it's a deep discount.
It's glorious. It's glorious. And like I said, I love my Suburban. It's been my baby for 12 years, 8 years. But I want this one. This is now my new baby.
I need to find a new job.
Yes, you do.
So should you buy a 2021 Chevy Tahoe Z71? Yes, you absolutely should. As much as we were impressed by the Expedition King Ranch that we tested over the summer, this new Tahoe raises the bar yet again, and it raises it significantly. I cannot overstate how well this thing drives with the magnetic shocks and air suspension. It is truly incredible, and it's absolutely worth going out of your way to make sure that your Tahoe and your Suburban are equipped with the magnetic ride and air suspension. I did have the car on the handling road. I wasn't able to film it, and for a car of this size, the ride on the handling road, especially if you dialed in sport mode on the magnetic ride, it was just unbelievable. It was better than anything that I've had up and down the handling road in that class of vehicle and even in some below. It's a huge accomplishment from GM, and it deserves all the praise that it's been getting. I think if you get behind the wheel of one, you'll really understand the difference it makes. The steering and braking are also surprisingly good for a vehicle of this size. The steering doesn't have a lot of feel, but it's not overly light. It's accurate, it firms up in sport mode. The brake pedal especially is great for a truck, a vehicle of this size. It's actually kind of firm and it has a good bite to it. It's not overly grabby and it's very progressive. And as I said earlier, the transmission always has your back, always knowing what gear to be in to maximize the power coming from the 5.3 liter V8, which isn't all that bad. I mean, it's a small block V8, it's just not quite as fast as that EcoBoost and it bugs me. But it's bigger than the Expedition, drives better than the Expedition, and is just as nice inside as the Expedition. Maybe not the King Ranch version, but this isn't the top interior spec Tahoe either. This is a home run from GM, and it's nice to see them investing some time and money in one of their most popular product lines, and not just coasting on reputation, name, or brand. Are there any missteps? I mean, I've been lavishly praising this thing and telling you that you should buy it. Surely there's something wrong with it. Well, only a few. As I mentioned, the engine is a carryover item, so it's rather unexceptional. It does get decent fuel economy, but not any better than previous iterations of the Tahoe and Suburban. We average probably in the neighborhood about 16 miles per gallon, which, is pretty good, but we did have some longer trips, so take it with a grain of salt. While the interior is much improved, there are some sort of strange ergonomic choices, like the parking brake is on the opposite side of the cabin from the push-button transmission selector, which doesn't seem to make much sense. And the ride control is an adjustment knob that's like essentially unmarked, so you just have to twist it and go, what's this do? And then the power sliding console is on the ceiling, which that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense either. Unless you're a 4Runner off-road, don't do ceiling controls. It's okay on the off-road. You know how I feel about that. Go watch that video right now. You know how I feel about ceiling controls. I mean, GM couldn't get the interior perfect, could they? I mean, it's GM we're talking about. They had to do something weird. They had to be like, hey, where should we put the parking brake? Over there. But all kidding aside, from the independent rear suspension to the push-button gear selector, this is a Tahoe transformed. Kind of like the push button gear selector. I mean, I always like the column stock, but like the push button gear selector just feels so much more like refined. And it is a fantastic vehicle. It does literally everything you ask of it, everything you could ever want a family vehicle to do. And it even spoils you a little bit in the process with some high-end options, GM's wonderful infotainment system. It's one of my favorites. It actually responds to your finger touches in a, kind of quick and sprightly manner. It doesn't have delay or lag or something like that. It's definitely one of the better systems out there, and wireless Apple CarPlay is always a welcome sight. I actually quite like this tester, both the exterior and interior colors, and unfortunately for my bank account, so does Mrs. Jax. I can honestly say that if we were going to replace our tried and true and trusty Suburban this year, it would 100% be with one of these, maybe even spec'd exactly the same way as this one is. And to be honest with you, if you're watching this channel, that is the highest praise that I can give it. Guys, if you like this video, please consider giving it a like, and if you enjoy this channel, please consider subscribing. I absolutely loved this vehicle. Mrs. Jax, as you know, adores this vehicle. This is a phenomenal SUV, and it's a lot of fun reviewing cars, but it's even more fun when they exceed your expectations. If you guys think that it's kind of fun to look for the nitpicks and to say the snarky comments and to talk about things that suck, I mean, it is. But it's even more fun when a brand that you kind of grew up with, that you really enjoy, and that you have owned several of, takes a sort of legendary model, a sort of legacy nameplate, and it knocks it out of the park. This is a great SUV full of innovative features and sporting one of the most advanced and amazing suspension systems on any large SUV out there. And I personally, as a lifelong GM fan, cannot believe that I am saying that about a Chevy Tahoe, but it is 100% true. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll consider joining this sort of growing community. Until next time, ride safe, drive safe, and I will catch you in the next review. Peace. As soon as this Jeep drives by, how about then? Of course, we have to have a truck with the muffler falling off, towing a backhoe that's too big for it. Oh, that plane is loud. I'm gonna shoot you down.